How's it going, everybody? This video, we're going to be breaking down the best Dark Dimension teams that are currently available in-game and leaning towards the characters that are more farmable. Now, this is being done in March 2025, so if this is now October 2025 and you're watching this, make sure you check out the channel for a more updated video, as other characters become farmable, this list obviously changes. But if you are currently on the hunt for Dark Dimension needs, I got what you need. So let's talk about some building principles first. While climbing through the mid-game, that is from like Dark Dimensions 4 through Dark Dimension 7 and Dark Dimension 8, that's like, you're really at the end game there, right? It's important to add the most priority onto raid and arena characters that have a foreseeable lifespan. This means a team like the Extreme X-Men, though they excel really well in a lot of our Dark Dimensions, I'm not going to be recommending them because they're not going to survive the next raid tier. They're simply not. They're going to get passed over because they've already been with us for 2 raids, the Incursion and now Orcus. So whatever the next one is, which may be around the corner, we have no idea, they're not going to be usable there. So we're going to avoid trying to max build some of these extreme characters and these older characters like Hive Mind and even Spider Society to a certain extent. We want to lean into the new meta stat characters. Any character that came after Ares essentially has nearly double attack, double the life, double everything. So that's just going to help us kind of clear these Dark Dimensions faster, and that feeds back into our number 1 rule. We're going to build characters for their use in all game modes, not for Dark Dimension. Normally, building a character just for use in Dark Dimension, like say a Vol, is super inadvisable because you're wasting so much gold and so much training materials and even T4s on a character that you're going to use in Dark Dimension twice for that Dark Dimension, and then you may never use them again. During the race to clear Dark Dimension 8, people used Vol on the last section, and that was great, and that helped us get through it real quick. And she would still probably be maybe the best 5th character to bring to this date, but you don't use her in War, you don't use her in Crucible, in Raids, in Arena, you don't use her anywhere else, so that becomes just a waste investment. And then I'm kind of hiding here. We're going to build for our current Dark Dimension with the future Dark Dimensions in mind. So if we're currently working on Dark Dimension 2, we're going to bring in same characters that we want to use later down the line. That's going to be true all the way up. So we're kind of climbing through the progress. But while we're doing that progress, we should talk about the Apocalypse saga. So Apocalypse is, for all intents and purposes, a Dark Dimension character, but he doesn't have a Dark Dimension. Instead, he has a saga where you need to build up his horsemen along with bio, mutant, and mystic characters and Marvel Strike Force originals. Now that is way different than our Dark Dimensions, which is, typically city, global, cosmic, legendary. So what I would suggest is you do want to deviate to get Apocalypse unlocked between Dark Dimensions 5 and 6. The amount of resources we get in game today, especially Teal Gear and Blue ISO as well, unlocking Apocalypse should be a blip. It should be maybe a week, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, depending on the events that we get and how much Teal Gear is being given out. But it should happen really, really quickly for you, which is great. And then we go back to our kind of the Dark Dimension structure that we're going to be going over here today. But let's jump right into it. And we're going to start by talking about Dark Dimension 7 here. The reason I'm going to start on Dark Dimension 7 is because these teams you can use all the way down. Even Dark Dimension 2, which only is 1 team, any of the 5 teams I show there, or any of the mixed match of Dark Dimension 7, when they are at the appropriate requirements for Dark Dimension 2, you'll smash it, okay? The one Dark Dimension I want to take a quick pulse check on is going to be Dark Dimension 6, because we have non-Horseman legendaries as a tag. Now, I wish one day they could just combine these, because it sucks to avoid Horseman characters so that we don't have to build up extra here. But for now, we want to actually avoid Horsemen, because if we are trying to build for Dark Dimension 6, knowing that Dark Dimension 7 is right around the corner as we grow our account, we want to not have the Horsemen kind of blocking our path here. Also note, the Cosmic section in Dark Dimension 6 is one of the hardest sections in the game, if you are at the level that is for Dark Dimension 6, which I believe is level 95. So if you're not level 95, year tier 18 on your characters, Cosmic is going to struggle no matter who you bring. But since we are getting so much experience on our accounts lately, even if you're a new player, you just hit 95, I would expect you to hit level 100 within like a month, maybe 2 months. And so it just gets easier. Like every week that you get a level, it just gets easier and easier because the levels of our characters are so impactful. So that is why we're going to start with Dark Dimension 7, because I think this is where you start to plan your teams if you know what you're doing, and then you can kind of start on DD2 and work your way up. So that's why, following content creators should be something that can help you out. So for DD7, our non-legendary, non-mythic city team, we do have 3 Night Stalkers. The reason we want to use Moon Knight here, and you may not use Moon Knight in the long run, because Mephisto is actually used in his place in raids, and Moon Knight is a raid character, right? But if you're doing DD7, you don't have Mephisto yet. So having your full Night Stalker team is going to really help you, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next raid tiers. I've often theorized that at some point we're going to see non-mythic mystic in our raids, because Odin is mystic, Mephisto is mystic, and so Null is mystic now too. So at some point, I assume Scopely is going to want to continue to sell us mystic teams, and they're going to have to, cut off that mythic tag from us. Regardless though, Moon Knight still does really, really well in War and Crucible, the Night Stalker team, so he is not a bad investment by any stretch of the imagination. The other 2 characters we're going to be bringing in is going to be Pav and Penny Parker. Pav we're bringing in because they are Spider Society members, which is a current raid team. I half suspect they're not going to work in the next raid tier, but Pav alone is a great plug-and-play character. So, Pav is a character that spawns with speed up on spawn, his turn 1 puts slow on the enemy, and he puts vulnerables on the enemy on spawn as well. Now, you're going to want to make Pav a skirmisher going forward, because he's going to have trouble landing his debuffs into these new stat characters, but that is still an amazing plug-and-play aspect. So, Pav definitely gets a nod from me. And Penny, she's gonna just kind of help Pav more. She's more dangerous to the enemies in War and Crucible, and she does more damage in the raid tier as well. These characters, you kind of build them reluctantly because there's not much else to lean into here. Like, we can build up some hive mind characters, but they have the same issue that Spider Society does in the sense that they're probably going to be phased out of the next raid tier. But if there was any team that was going to survive the axe from Scopely, it was going to be these Spider Society members, so I think they're still the best investment to go with. And we don't do Peter B. Parker here, but if you wanted to, you could do Peter B. Parker over Moon Knight. It's kind of like a lateral change there. I just don't know the lifespan of Peter B. Parker. For the non-legendary, non-mythic global section of DD7, this is the hardest section in DD7. Yes, even harder than the mythic section. It is absolutely brutal. We're going to lean into our raid team of Orcus, but we're also going to slap in Nightcrawler. Now, Nightcrawler is part of that Extreme X-Men team that I alluded to we would probably want to avoid, because they're definitely not going to make the next raid tier. Nightcrawler, though, like Pav, amazing plug-and-play value in all aspects of the game, especially a flash event like a sword satellite tower or some sort of Scourge where you could use him. Again, starts with speed up on spawn, has a turn 1 stun, and gives you more speed bar on your highest damage character. No brainer. The Orcus members, like Night Stalkers, that's a raid team. They're a new stat raid team, and they should be a lock-in for the next raid tier. So it makes sense to invest in them more now if you haven't already. And they'll get through the global section. It's just not going to be turbo fun. Non-legendary and non-mythic cosmic section, we got our Annihilators, which is a current raid staple. Arena staple. With Null coming, Professor X coming, with more people getting Odin, these Annihilators are quickly moving out of the arena meta, but they still have insane value in War and Crucible, and they're farmable, they have the new stats, so they meet a lot of our criteria. Then we have Doctor Strange, part of the Astral team. Astral, for all intents and purposes, is a raid team. They're used for Battle World, although be it Battle World is only used once a month, you need them for 3 nodes, plus they're the only team that actually functions against the Null boss. So if you're an alliance that you need to start pushing for difficulty 5, get your Null kills so you're unlocking Null at a pretty decent rate, you're going to want a big Doctor Strange. He's also a really, really good plug-and-play character. Arguably the 3rd best plug-and-play character on his team, next to Shadow King and Emma Frost, who have Shadow King straight damage, and Emma Frost is an amazing mechanical character. Then there's Kahori. Now, Kahori is on here for a couple reasons. Great plug-and-play character, and she feeds off the endgame Thanos. See, she is, kind of ironically, she's in here because she's super good in the mode. She has the new stats, and I can see her kind of staying around in the meta for a very long time. Her opening attack, where she gets to do 2 basics out the gate to put Expose, will help sort of snowball any sort of exposed character that comes in the future. And then if she reaches her turn 3, it's devastating damage, covers the enemies in debuffs, and by the nature of Dark Dimensions, she's going to see a lot of turns. And if she's getting energy from the endgame Thanos, she's going to get to use her ult a lot, which gives her another turn, and turn-based game, this is huge, okay? The legendary section. Old Man Logan is an absolute lock here. He is going to do literally all of the lifting for you. When I first went through Dark Dimension 7, I beat it with a 4 yellow star, 2 red star Old Man Logan. So even a newest player, as long as you have the opportunity to unlock Old Man Logan, he's going to carry this for you. Next up is Shadow King. If Old Man Logan's doing 75% of the work, Shadow King is probably doing about 15% of the work. He is huge damage, really tanky. He's got those new stats. There's a lot of good benefits for Shadow King. Now, Shadow King's a tough one, right? Because he hasn't had as many reruns of his trial as Old Man Logan has. So if you need to replace Shadow King with one of these members, I would probably do somebody like Doc Ock, because that has a lot of synergy with Green Goblin. Although Doc Ock costs a lot, again, you guys are in a different position than we were when we first did this. I know resources are definitely a constraint for you, but that's mostly gold and training materials, is my understanding from talking to players who are up and coming through these Dark Dimensions. You guys get a lot of Crimson gear, so if you need to hold out an extra week to bring up like a Doc Ock instead of like I don't know, an Omega Red, that's probably a decent investment at the end of the day. And depending on what kind of raids you're doing, Crimson gear you earn pretty fast. A couple other options would be like Iron Man and Black Bolt, because they're used with the Illuminati team, and Illuminati is needed for the Shadow King unlock. That's something you could do as well, but they will be absolutely dead space on your Dark Dimension 7 roster, which, according to our principles, I don't really care about. Like, that's okay to bring in a dead spot, as long as you'll get use out of them in a different place of the game that you're going to actually do more regularly. Phoenix. So Phoenix recently got reworked to be on the Phoenix Forest team. A lot of you may just not care too much about being competitive in Crucible, but here is my word of warning for you, and for anybody who skipped out on the Phoenix Forest team. Learn from the lessons of the Undying team. 3 years ago, Hela was joined by Zombie Iron Man. Since then, she's been joined by Zombie Juggernaut that revitalized the team, and now Scarlet Witch Zombie that revitalized the team, and next October she'll be joined by another character that's going to revitalize the team. And war teams kind of have a lifespan between 2 and 3 years. That means the Undying team had about 5 years of productive use for its players. Phoenix Force is going to be following in that footsteps, just in a different mode.
Dad.
Hey, buddy.
Nobody wants to play your game with me.
Sorry about that. Don't know where we were. Let's move on over to Invisible Woman. Long story short, Phoenix Force is probably going to have about 5 years of life in Cosmic Crucible. Invisible Woman. Well, you already have to build up Hercules and OG Falcon for the spotlight. So if we have to build up legendary characters, we might as well build up one that is going to help us round out a team so we can build another team and get more value, right? So Invisible Woman is the 3rd member on that Mighty Avenger team now, and you have a good solid foundation to put a little bit of love into Scarlet Witch and Vision, and then you got yourself another raid team that'll probably give you, war team that'll probably give you about 3 years of use. Then there's Green Goblin Classic. It's slim pickings in the legendary section. Like Green Goblin Classic, I love him. I love his team. If you already have them built, you know how good they are in War and Crucible. To tell people building that team now is a good investment is, whoa, that's a stretch. I would not think that whatsoever. But Green Goblin Classic, as a plug-and-play character, there might be some value there. It's just really slim pickings by the time you get to your 5th pick of the legendaries. Hopefully we'll see more legendaries come in the future, or at least maybe some of these guys can get some reworks. I would love to see the Horseman get some reworks, and we'd have some better investment advice for you guys. Though again, you can't use Horseman in Dark Dimension 6, so that wouldn't really help us here, if we're following these principles. And that'll lead us to the Mythic section. Once again, you guys live in a different world than we did when we first started DD7. You get a lot more Crimson gear. It used to take 2 months to get enough Crimson pieces to equip to one origin trait. You guys don't really have to worry about too much about stacking tech characters or stacking mystic characters. Like, you can kind of get that gear much more readily, whether it's from event stores, the orbs that we're now getting from the raids, the stores are now popping up more in the gold store. We're getting more gold to actually buy that kind of stuff. You have more options, so if you want to take 5 characters, you can. But you could beat this with 4. These are the 4 that I think are best. Now, this is going to be the most controversial pick, this Dr. Doom here. But the lock-ins, Skrull, Apocalypse, and Ultimus, they're locked in. Ultimus has the new stats. He's got defense down, ability blocks. He gets extra speed bar. He's really, really good for this mode. And he's a cheap upgrade for your red stars and your diamonds. Now, if you're a new player, diamonds and red stars on Skrull and Apocalypse are super tough. You don't get enough DPCs. You won't get enough dark diamonds for that. I did this.
Oh, dip.
I'm working.
Dip.
Here's some chips.
Okay.
I love you.
Oh, please.
Sorry, another kid came in and scared the crud out of me. Okay, so about a year ago, I made a new account, and I was able to beat Dark Dimension 7 on that account with a 4 red star Super Skrull, and I believe it was a 6 red star Apocalypse. So don't worry too much about the footage I'm about to show you. It still works with the relatively unlocked levels of these characters, which is really, really good. Before we get to that footage, though, I want to talk about Dr. Doom. You unlock Dr. Doom in Dark Dimension 4. It might seem like asking an incredible amount to level up Dr. Doom for this Dark Dimension, and it is, but he kind of breaks the mold when it comes to my rules about not leveling up a character just for a single Dark Dimension. I know people have done it without him. He is so helpful in breaking down these nodes into being like 4 or 5 hit instead of like 12 or 13 hit. Because I've heard absolute horror stories about people taking these 3 in, but then grabbing Kestrel. Kestrel's a cheaper character. You have her leveled up for Apocalypse, so she's kind of like halfway there. And you're looking at her like, yeah, I'll bring her for the rest of the way. It doesn't really turn out good. She is just a standing scarecrow, and she gets absolutely obliterated, so I would not recommend bringing Kestrel. And Dormammu, not bad. Like, he's closer in stats than Doom is, since Dormammu was the Dark Dimension after Doom. But the revives don't do nearly as much as you would hope. His kit, as far as landing the stun, it's tough to land the stun on some of these characters with their stats. And his ultimate does do good damage and it does do good debuffs, but it takes a long time to recuperate. Whereas Doom, when he ults, he's already taking 3 turns, so he's building up to that ult very quickly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to include some footage of me doing the Dark Dimension 7 mythic node at first, so that you can see how I play the node. Yes, my bud.
Grandpa said bring the chip up.
Okay.
So give it.
Alright, so here we are in Dark Dimension 7, and this is going to be a little bit skewed, because obviously my characters are much bigger. I have them at purple ISO, which is not a requirement for DD7. I have some of them at 105, especially here, the Skrull and the Apocalypse 105 is going to change things quite a bit. My Ultimus is 104, and then my Doom is 102. The next thing we should talk about is red stars. If you're just on the up-and-coming, I assume you're not going to have nearly as much red stars as I have, right? I have 3 diamonds on Skrull, Apocalypse, Ultimus, and Doom. I have 3 diamonds on literally every single one of these characters, so you're going to see this go quite easy for me. It's not going to be as easy for you, okay? But just mechanically, I want to show you how I would play these nodes. Another thing is you can use some of these characters on the first 2 nodes of Dark Dimension 7, so make sure that if you are using Apocalypse and Skrull, which I assume you are, in the first 2 nodes of Dark Dimension 7, that you're coming in with your cooldowns ready to go. So as far as Skrull goes, I like to try and use either the basic or the special here. If you use the basic and you can get off the Red Guardian, that's great. I do think that Red Guardian has a bunch of resistance, though. We'll go ahead and we'll do the rewind on Apocalypse here. That's also going to give him the expose. So because he has expose, he can no longer fill his speed bar. This is an important part of his kit. With Ultimus now, I can kind of decide what I do. Do I want to go ahead and punch him? Do I want to try and get this Quicksilver under control? Do I want to try and get that Black Cat, flip all of her stuff? So there's lots of things I could do here. I could also go for an ability block. So I have lots of options. I kind of forget which the best one is to do, honestly. Maybe I'll just do the special, because this is going to copy and clear all positive effects, including stealth from each target to me. That sounds good. Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, we take all their buffs away. Good job, Ultimus. Really cool kit. So he's going to go ahead. He's actually got those death proofs now, so he's a little bit protected. Skrull can ult. And all we're trying to do here is see our Doom go boom. And not by the percentage damage. Okay, there we go. So Doom did get the energy there. And as long as he survives, he's then going to be able to take someone for a ride. And then you're going to see why I would suggest Doom. And why I would suggest all these characters, actually. Alright, so here comes the Doom Ultimate. There you go. And now we get to pick somebody that we're going to full send it into. We got a buff clear here. Let's try and get Quicksilver to drop his defense up. He sure did. After that, we will put a vulnerable up on the Morgan. Oh, no. Apocalypse doesn't have a vulnerable yet, so let's go ahead and throw that at him. And I'm going to keep my Doombots alive, just like we talked about. Oof, this guy taking the ride is not what I expected to have happen, but let's see what we can do here. Alright, so there goes the Morgan Le Fay. We got another ability block. Try to use it over here. We're going to be eating this Apocalypse ult, which is not great. We have another expose. Sure, I'll put it on the Quicksilver here so he doesn't get speed bar. Apocalypse got his punch. Let's see if we can punch out this any Apocalypse. I kind of assumed that my Skrull Apocalypse was going to go on the Doom ride here. But there you go. And now you can see just how much the Doom did for me there. How much control I had. Even though Ultimates went on the ride, instead of, for you, it'll probably be Skrull Apocalypse as they're very likely to have offense up. How much that Doom did for me. And now we have a bunch of Doom attacks that are kind of wasted turns. I actually have no idea why he got speed bar with he has the expose from Skrull, but interesting. Anyway, after that, we'll just keep going. And I'll show you how I approach Doom in this manner. Here, let's get rid of a couple of these guys. Here we go. Boom, boom. And you can see Doom still needs 6 turns. So that's why I keep the Doombots up. You see he has the speed up, so he's going to get to that 6 turns a lot faster than he otherwise would. We'll take out the Black Cat next. We'll start saving some cooldowns as we go. Could have done the special because I would have got the slow off of my Apocalypse. Would not have been a terrible idea. He now needs 4 turns. Skrull is ready to go. And here's the second wave. So actually, because my characters are so big, I actually push this a little bit faster than I would have liked. Now that we have all these Doombots up, this is going to feed Morgan Le Fay speed bar, so I do got to be careful about that. All right, we got a turn meter rewind. We'll go ahead and throw this. The Doombots are all dead anyway. So let's just throw the special, get rid of that last one back there. Oh no, the Robbie Reyes with that ability block. No good. We'll get the offense up off of this one. And then eventually Apocalypse is going to step in here. I should have done the Apocalypse special to cleanse me a little bit sooner. Skrull just gets so many turns because of all the debuffs. There, we got the offense up off the other Robbie. That's great. All right, we're going to go ahead and do an ability block. We'll do it on the Morgan Le Fay since she's about to rewind everybody. We don't want that to have happen. You see, Doom got pushed up above 50%. He just got pushed below, so he gets energy once again. And I'll just start rewinding people again. And we'll see what our Doom's energy is sitting at. Sure, let's try and get rid of this Robbie. You notice I'm using basics now. I'm not actually using my cooldowns because I don't want to miss the opportunity for Doom to get more energy. I don't want them to not have their cooldowns when we come back in. We're probably going to die here anyway. So we're not going to see what Doom's energy's at, but here's what I'll tell you. After doing this enough, I know that I took enough turns that at worst, if I come back in here, he's probably going to be 1 turn away, and if he gets pushed, it's going to immediately be good for me. So I start saving all my cooldowns, and we hit this again. And this node, even at my level, is probably going to take me 3 hits to push, and that's kind of just okay. You kind of just live with that. The only character who you can go ahead and spam your abilities on is Apocalypse. He's going to get all his stuff back, but this is great. And this is how I would approach the fight. We get 1 Doom ult, I push a wave and a half, I come back in with my Doom ult being very close, all my other characters are ready to go, and we take this wave by wave. Especially, and I think we're just going to go ahead and run this. This is going to be a longer video. The next wave has Skrull and Apocalypse on it together, and if you don't enter it with something like a Doom ult, it can take you so damn long to clear through it. Alright guys, so that's kind of why I like this 4-piece Mythic team. You saw I was able to get the Doom to ult. I was able to get him enough turns that he's able to set up for his next attack. So the next day when I go in, I kind of have a easier time. We're not doing a bazillion resets to try and finagle an extra ult out of him. Or just extra damage out of anybody. And it seems to work out pretty good, in my opinion. Now, this is for Dark Dimension 7 and down, though. Dark Dimension 8 is a different animal. I won't spend too much time on it because it is similar in a lot of regards, but the main difference is obviously it breaks up our heroes and our villains for both city and global, and then we have an entirety of Legendary Cosmic. If we go back to DD7 and down, you'll see that basically the city team is a bunch of heroes, the global team is a bunch of villains with Nightcrawler. So we got to kind of make a different city villain team and a different global hero team, and this is what I have to share with you today. So as far as the non-legendary city hero team goes, we're going to basically do the same thing we did for DD7 and down, but I take Moon Knight out and sub in Peter B. Parker just because the amount of damage that happens to DD8 is a lot higher and his sustain is actually needed, whereas it's not for DD7 and down. For the non-legendary city villain node, this section is so painful to have to level up and gear for. So the two Hive Mind characters that definitely won't be usable in the next raid tier, they're very, very good in this section. And then we have our Sinister 6, Superior 6 members. And the reason we go there is because we have no real other options. But also, if we are saying that we can bring in our Green Goblin Classic for Dark Dimension 7 and Dark Dimension 6 Legendary sections, then why don't we build the rest of the Sinister 6 team up to a usable level, and then we have a really good War Crucible team. So that is kind of the meshing together of certain sections so that we have usable like tools outside of Dark Dimension. For the non-legendary global hero section, this one is by far the hardest, most annoying section in any of the Dark Dimensions. This team was just discovered today. It was shared to us by a Twitch viewer, Kevin, really smart player. I had no idea that you could one-shot those nodes. This team one-shots those nodes. Now, when I did it, my Captain Britain was 1 diamond. I know it's more regular to maybe have a 5 or 6 red star Captain Britain. I'm very confident that if you have the other 4 members built up, they're all farmable, you can upgrade their diamonds, you would have very similar results to what I had today. Maybe not a 1-shot, but maybe a 2-shot instead. I was blown away. The first global node, I didn't get to record it, unfortunately. I was able to kill the sentinels that plague that node, which is the hardest thing in that first node. Those sentinels drive so many people nuts, and this team comes in and one-shots it. It was revolutionary. It was insane. And after that hero section, because we need to take out Nightcrawler, I just go ahead. You could use Apocalypse on the non-legendary global villain section, so do that. And you could one-shot the first node here and 2-tap, maybe 3-tap the second global villain node without issue. And then there's the legendary cosmic section. Now, Old Man Logan as a legendary character, in-game Thanos as a cosmic along with Kahori. I think these are 3 great characters still. Super Skrull as a cosmic, no-brainer. This is going to be an amazing 4-piece expose energy battery section. Like this is, you're going to be able to ult basically every turn, if not every other turn. And Mephisto comes in as a huge damage dealer. He gets his charges up, which are really nice. And he can set the stage whenever you have to do a new attack. He gets his mark of Mephisto out there, right? I know a couple of you, as you grow, you are going to be doing the Mephisto Dark Dimension 7 and the Odin Dark Dimension 8 at the same time because the inputs are the same, right? Because you need Gear Tier 19, which is at level 100 for Mephisto, but you only need Purple ISO, which starts becoming available at level 85 for Odin. So you'll be chasing both at the same time, but from what I'm hearing, like 90% of players are unlocking Mephisto before they get to the legendary cosmic section for Odin. And if I'm being real with you, Mephisto is a huge tool in that section. If you don't have Mephisto, it's going to be pretty painful. But if you don't have Mephisto yet, and you got here for whatever reason, there is a really good few replacements. Shadow King is an amazing replacement. And if you don't want to do Shadow King, Miss Nova Classic, who should be farmable probably within the next 2 months or so, her with Kahori is also absolutely amazing. But that's it, guys. That's our recommendations currently in March 2025 for Dark Dimension characters, Dark Dimension 8 and Dark Dimension 7 and below specifically. Those kind of broken up for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you, finds you well. I hope you guys are enjoying Marvel Strike Force in the mid-game. And let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns on anything that we went over here today. But for now, please stay happy, stay healthy, have fun. Smash that like button. Like button? Oh my god, this is in the video. Jesus. Subscribe if you like chaos. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.